Say hello, everybody out there in Facebook land. Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. Welcome along to tonight's live stream of the PPD Zoom webinar that we're going to start up here in a moment for this is January's 3rd, 2023, and it's our first webinar of the year. And so with that, we have a contest that we run here at Pixel Pro Displays every single month. So if you're watching on YouTube, let me get my screen ready here. I'm going to switch around here. We do a raffle, a guess the sequence contest every year, or every month, that is, to see if you can guess the sequence with a couple of goofy hints. For example, this is in the Pixel Pro University Facebook group, so this is one of the things that we'll do every once in a while. Is we'll create a contest of some sort. And last week, what we did was we did a giveaway for folks who entered to win, and we had two xLights controllers, and the winners of those were Kevin McHenry and Bob McDowell. We're going to, since they're both going to be at the Florida Mini, we'll be delivering their controllers to them when we see them, instead of having to worry about them getting shipped or ordering them or whatever. So, with that being said, today's raffle is going to be for. We have two winners that we're going to pull. There's over, I want to say like 90 correct guesses, and so I think this month's song seemed to resonate pretty well with a significant number of people compared to most of the normal first day downloads. This was a quick to jump on song. So we did Nutcracker Nutrocker by TSO, that is, and it was a hell of a lot of fun. I really always loved that song, so I've always wanted to do that. But in any event, the prize winners tonight are going to win two gift cards. Those two gift cards are going to be for one is both of them are going to win one $50 gift card for Boscoyo Studios. It's something to kind of get you fired up and thinking about some of the things that you'll want to get onto into your show for the 2023 season, because it's time to start preparing for 2023. Believe it or not, I mean, how many of you, hands up in the chat room there or out there in YouTube land, hands up, or let us know if you're already preparing to do a number of these a number of additions to your show this year, or you're getting ready. Like, like this is the time. Like, finally, if you didn't catch on, there's definitely a huge sense of also, by the way, and if you also want to comment in chat and so forth, go ahead, because I'm watching chat. But this is also the time where everybody starts to get a little depressed because we all took our shows down. Well, I didn't. I'm still going till the 8th. But for the most part, everybody's still, excited. It's like, oh my gosh, my yard was full of stuff and now my yard's empty. So it's that time when we want to start doing some things, getting ahead, planning ahead. And so that's what we're going to do here, is we're going to give you two gift cards. So to the people who, the significant number of people, I really didn't count them all, maybe 70 or 80 people who guessed correctly. You'd have to count them up because I really didn't count them. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you for participating. And so what we'll do is we're going to draw two winners. I'm going to grab my trusty piece of paper here and write down two winners here. The first winner tonight for a $50 gift card is going to be Mr. Tom Langley. Oh, Ed, I thought you were going to get it there for a second, but Tom beat you to it. Congratulations, Tom. Any of the winners, send me your email address so that I can get, and not the winners, not just everybody, but send me send me your email address if you won. That way I can get the gift card sent out to you tomorrow. Okay, second winner. Here we go. Drum roll. And it's going to be Mr. Brian Burrell. Congratulations, Brian. 2 winners of $50 gift cards and from PPD to the Boscoyo Studios King of Coro Corral, where you can get pretty much anything your heart desires. I have a feeling there's some, well, I don't know if you guys watched, but there were a significant number of huge new additions this year. As far as Boscoyo is concerned, they added a ton of new Halloween stuff, designed by Robert, my business partner, Robert Van Orsdale. They spent days and days in a Zoom room just trying to get things worked out. So, what we're going to do next is we're going to jump right in, and we're going to get started with doing a webinar, which we haven't done in about 2 weeks. Well, last week was kind of interesting. Show of hands. I'm sharing my screen here to xLights. I don't like this thing here. There we go. Get this out of here.
Hey, Clyde, if you don't mind me bumping you off sharing real quick.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just wanted to go over this sale that we have going on real quick. This is a huge sale going on right now where you get a controller built by CCL Controllers. It's a 16 output controller with 2 power supplies and 16 pigtails, 3,000 pixels from Matos Designs, and 30 10-foot extensions. You also get a $500 Coro gift card or credit, however you want to look at it. You get a swag pack as well from Boscoyo Studios. And you also get 1 year of the PPD Sequence Club. So that's 1 sequence every month for the next 12 months. So you figure if you start today, by the time you're going to need the sequences, you'll have 11 deep. And then December of next year will be that one that you add to your show. There are different things that the PPD Sequence Store or the Sequence Club does for you. So you would get money off the affiliates going forward, like Boscoyo, Matos, CCL. So there's all kinds of deals that you can get with those guys as well. There's other sequence stores like Showstoppers and Pixel Fairy Dust and Holiday Sequences that you also get specials from. So there's all kinds of different things out there that you can actually get with this special. But I mean, for this special here, you're looking at just shy of $2,000, and you're going to have pretty much a light show that's ready to go. This is your sequences, this is your props, this is your pixels, this is your controller. I mean, you really don't need anything else other than this, other than 1 network wire and a PC or a Raspberry Pi, and you're good to go. So I just wanted to throw that in real quick, Clyde, because I think a lot of this is getting overlooked with just everybody saying Happy New Year's and everything like that. I think it got flushed down through the pages and that. So back over to you in PPD Studios.
All righty. We'll go ahead and turn my camera back on. That's there's a lot of exciting things that are going on at PPD. Like we it's not that we want to turn this into this giant commercial, because we do a lot of things. But if you wanted to, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm not sharing my screen right now, but I'm just showing the pixelprodisplay.com website, and it shows that if you buy any 2 PPD sequences, you can join the PPD Sequence Club for $150 more. But that's also another promo that we're running. It's our 5th anniversary. Robert and I have been working together for over 5 years on a significant number of projects, and it has been an amazing ride. It is getting crazier, or it's getting interesting every year. Let's put it that way. We always run into something new and exciting, so it's something good to test us out with. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to switch. I got to figure out which camera to switch YouTube to. That should do it. And we will pop my little thing up here. There we go. And so YouTube, if you can hear me, give me a shout out there. Let me know that you can hear me. I don't see anything in chat there. And we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you have a question, by all means, go ahead. I have my chat screen open. And before I begin, let me get it nice and set up here. There we go. All right. I'm pretty sure everybody can see my screen now. We should be in good shape. Um, one of the things I want to bring up is last week we did something really interesting, something a little different, and we kind of broke up what we usually call our open mic night. And I wanted to get a little bit of feedback on that. What did you all think of last week's kind of? What did you kind of all think about how we did things last week? We did a little bit of submodeling. I think that went pretty interesting, and it's really a big project, the one we were working on last week. That we might have one of those later tonight, if John happens to pop on tonight, but we'll see. So, in any event, comment in the chat if you like to, and I'll hit up any questions and make sure that we get through some of this stuff. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go over some of the things that are right here in the xLights toolbar here. So why are these icons? Why are these icons necessary? Well, it's not that they're necessary or not necessary. Oh, look at that. So that's the 2022.26. I guess it didn't want to cooperate with us tonight, so it's reloading. Great way to start out a webinar. There we go. It opened up on the other screen. Give me a couple seconds here. All right, there we go. And we want to go to the single screen. All right, I'm where I was before. So, why are these icons important? Well, first thing that you probably want to know about these icons is that these are all able to be undocked and dragged anywhere you want, drug anywhere that you want. You can put them pretty much anywhere. So if you want to put them at the bottom of your screen, you're able to do that. You just have to click and drag on the dots that are beside the toolbar. And these are all broken down into sections. So it doesn't, you're not hurting anything by moving them. They are a little bit laggy that I noticed recently. But they will split up. You can add another row across the top between. So if I drug this one down here, it does stick a little. Sometimes it does. It's not instantaneous, but if I click it and I drop that one there, maybe it will pop right in, or it will pop in over here. Yeah, it popped in over here. So it does move. You can also do that with your effects toolbar. It can be moved as well. Some people put it at the bottom, so they click at the bottom and drag straight up. I'm just used to it being up there, so. But I know all the shortcuts. I have shortcuts to all of them, so it doesn't really bother me. So number one, you can kind of customize these bars. You can put them in places or locations the way that you prefer, that they're set up more logically to you. But this is by all means the standard default setting for these. So the first toolbar here, going from left to right across the screen here, this is going to be your select show directory. So if we were changing our show directory, we could do that from this screen right here, and that's not a problem. Most everybody is used to going to controllers, change permanently, change temporarily, using these icons. Now, if you're a home user and you're using xLights, you're probably not going to change your xLights directory very often. But it is a function that is there, and it's there for you to make life easy. When the next icon is and if you hover over them, you can see that there's a tooltip there that shows up and it tells you what they are. But a lot of people are so used to I'm not calling them out. I'm not calling them boomers or anything because I love them. But we have file menus, and people are used to do file open, file this, edit, and searching the menus for certain things. But that's why I want to go through this, so that you know that there's a fast way for you to do some certain things. Now, there's not an icon for everything, so don't get too excited. But whenever you learn what the icons are for, they're certainly helpful. This is the new sequence wizard, and whenever you click on new sequence, it will, we can walk through it. It'll discard the changes. In fact, that's what made xLights crash before. You have this sequence settings wizard, and you can go through and fill in this data, all the data that you are looking to fill in. And I'm just going for animation tonight, and I'm not doing anything crazy. But that's basically what it will do, is it will create a brand new sequence for you. So I utilize this a lot of times whenever I'm hurrying up and I'm quickly trying to get started with something or doing a demo. This is the open sequences file. So for example, if I were going to open up a sequence and work on a sequence, I would click on the folder that I'm going to pull that sequence from, usually like the pro layout and stuff, because that's what I'm working in, and I would select my sequence. Some people would go to File and Open Sequence. It's the exact same thing. It's the same thing. You can see the icons there. Then you have this. There's two save icons. One's a save icon. I mean, I know we're talking about 90s and early 2000 technology by having a 3.5-inch floppy disk. Is that what it is? A 3.5-inch floppy disk. But when we changed, well, not we, but whenever these icons got remade for something different, they got turned into an arrow up and an arrow down, and it really confused people. It was very confusing whenever these icons got changed. So they got switched back, and then they got colorized. So we have these nice, pretty colors that kind of make them look a little bit different than what they used to be on a grayscale or a old Windows 3.1 scale, we'll say. So this is your save. You can click save. If you haven't saved a sequence, you can save the sequence at this point, whatever name. When you do hit save and you are sequencing with the MP3, the file name for the sequence will automatically will take the automatic name of the same name as the MP3 that you chose to start the sequence with, and that's what the file name will show as. And I like using that. It's a pretty nice feature in xLights. Then there's also, let's say you're working on a sequence, but you've come to a point where, hey, maybe right about here, I'm going to start doing things a little bit differently from here on over, from here on to the end, but I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. You could do a save as, which you can literally have a sequence that you're working on and then create an exact duplicate of the same sequence, just as like version 2 or version 3 or something like that. So if you want to be able to go back and look at what you've done before or create a breakpoint, that's one thing that you can do. You can save this as another name. So that's here as well, save sequence as. So it's just another way to save it as something different, give it a different name. This is the render all button. Now, render all, what render all does is, if you have a sequence open and you have a bunch of effects and you have a bunch of effects here that are on the screen, what render all does is it scans through every group, every model, every submodel that is on the sequence screen in the master and in the entire sequence for that matter, and it will render. It will physically, basically click on every single one, because clicking on them actually activates the effect. So what we call a render is when we render all, we render the sequence, or we render the effects that are placed in the sequence, and that activates the effects so that xLights can see it. Now, depending on your settings, every time you open a sequence, you may have to click the render button. If you have an FSEQ file saved already, you may not have to. I'm not sure exactly the details on how exactly that works, but if you open up a sequence, just let's say I want to open Elvis Presley's Blue Christmas. I'm going to get rid of the changes in this, and if I do open this up, which I'm not going to play it, but if I open this up and I hit the render button, this is going to render all of these effects, every single one of them. But it's going to activate them and make them so that they're playable. So if for example, if I were to just play it, you're not going to see any kind of let me silence this and then we'll do it. You can see there's no effects playing on the layout whatsoever. So if this is whenever you're running your sequence, if you're opening your sequence and your sequence doesn't do anything and it's got all kinds of effects in it, you have to hit the render all button first. And that's what that's for. So next we have a couple really, really helpful pieces of copy and paste methods. So as you can see here in this sequence, we have a couple different, let's say, timing grids, shall we? So we have this note onset, we have this beat count, we have bars, and we have a new timing. Sometimes I use that for specific individual notes that I was tapping out, for example. But in any event, whenever I'm copying an effect, we have different ways that we can copy it. So one of the things that is not 100% apparent is this beat here from this timing to this timing is 0.65. If I copy an effect over to this area over here from this timing mark to this timing mark, is it 0.65? Yes, it is. But are they all 0.65? And in this instance, so far, they look like they are 0.65, but some of them might be stretched a little bit longer. And if they are stretched a little bit longer, this copy by this, in other words, this copy, let's see, this is a perfect example right here. We'll take this and we can copy these effects and we can paste them. And notice how they're slightly off kilter here, where they don't start out exactly right at the beginning of a beat mark or a timing mark. If we come down here and we paste them, let's say right here, or up here we'll put them, and we'll go ahead and throw it there. You see how they look like they pasted exactly the same. But if we change this, and what it does is this first one is by default. This is called paste by time. So let's start with that. Paste by time means take this exact amount of time from here to here, copy these effects, and then paste them exactly in another area using the exact same quote-unquote time. The other option is the paste by cell. So what xLights will do is it will say, hey, what's the difference between this cell and this cell, this cell and this cell, this cell and this cell, this cell, this cell? What's the total length of all these cells? And if and it's already copied. If I change how it pastes, it may come up. Notice how it's just slightly different. It indents certainly a little bit different, but it's pasting by cell so that it will start at the more appropriate time. That was in it, for example, in this section right here, this here, see how this is a little longer than this one? This area was such and such a certain period of time long. So 0.65, maybe this one's a little bit longer. Maybe it's 0.6. Maybe this cell is just a little bit longer. And so xLights can tell that mathematically. So it stretches it out if it is or if it's different. So the paste by cell is rather helpful in certain circumstances whenever you're trying to line things up a little better. But then other times, paste by time is also helpful. So I use both of these. If I'm in Zoom with Rob, and the only time I say I hate xLights is because I wish I could easily switch between these right before I paste, because I'll make a mistake and I'll need to switch from one to the other. That's the only time I ever say it's like, damn it, because I wanted to paste it. So I have to undo, no big deal, Control Z, undo. And then I have to come up here and I have to click this, and then I can right click and paste again, and now it's going to do it the way that I wanted it to. So, copy and paste by paste by cell and paste by time, ridiculously important and powerful and necessary and helpful. That was definitely a nice addition, thanks to the developers. Next we have the play bar. And the play bar, you have basically, you have a way for you to navigate between the screen whenever you want to see a playback. Now, most people already know this, but if you don't know this, what you're going to realize is that the space bar, if you hit the space bar, the sequence will start to play. And you can see the effects. Now it's rendered a little bit already here, so you can see it play, right? But in any event, if you hit the space bar, it plays. Now you can't hear any music. I've muted it because, YouTube and Facebook will throw rocks and stones at me, especially for this song, because they absolutely hate Elvis Presley for whatever reason. But I picked a great song. But with that being said, where those play buttons are going to look very familiar is they're going to look familiar on the house preview. So here is the house preview. And this looks, I mean, obviously looks familiar, but what looks familiar is here's your play button, here's your pause button, your stop button, your left button, and then beginning and end of sequence buttons. And those are pretty much demarked up here at the top of the screen. So let me show you how these work. So if we want to play the sequence, we can hit play, and it plays from the point at which your icon or your mouse click has stopped, or the last place that you have clicked on the timing grid. So if you hit play, you can see it starts playing over here. Bam, now it's changed over and it keeps playing, no problem. Now you have a stop icon, and obviously that makes sense, but you also have a pause, and it pauses it where it is, and if you hit the play button, it's going to start where the start icon location was. If you hit pause again and you hit pause again, it's going to pick up and continue. So that's the nice thing about the pause, is that if you're just watching it and you want to stop it and say, okay, what did I do there? And then you want to play it again from where you started from, and you're like, okay, how does this look? How does this look? Pause. Okay, play it again. So these pause and play buttons are rather helpful. I like the space bar. The space bar just starts it back over. It's just like hitting the play button here. It takes you right back to where it was before you hit a location in the timing grid. So the next two buttons are the first frame and the last frame. So if we're in the middle of the sequence, let's say we're at the 42-second mark or 43-second mark, and we hit this left icon or the first frame icon, it takes you all the way back to the beginning. It marks your cursor there, and if you hit the play button, it starts out at the beginning, and you can see the sequence start out, right? Likewise, if you hit the last frame, it takes you all the way to the end, and if you hit the play button, nothing's going to happen because you're at the end of the sequence. You can't play anything. So, but if you were trying to navigate quickly to different areas, this is one helpful way for you to pick up and do that, because you have these buttons that can quickly get you there. Now, the two things on this icon toolbar that's up at the top of the screen has that your house preview does not have is this repeat play section. So how this works is, let's go back to the beginning here. Let's say I want to listen to this section over and over and over again. So if you're in chat or you're on YouTube, put your hands up and let me know if you've ever had to keep listening to the same thing over and over again because you're trying to figure out what you should be putting down there exactly. How am I going to do this? What do I do in this section? So one of the things that you can do, and I just clicked and dragged. Let me move my camera there. You can see I'm working on this section, we'll say, and I can hit this repeat. And you'll see that xLights will just start to repeat. And where this is really helpful is if you have a section of music, we'll say from beat 1 through beat 4, and or let's say bars, if we have bars here. Let's say this bar, this bar, this bar, these 3 bars. I need to hear it over and over again. I can't picture in my head what it's supposed to do here. You can listen to it over and over again, and it will continue to repeat it, but you have to come up here in the timing area, click and drag, and then hit the recirculate button, or what's called the replay section icon. Now the last icon on this screen is the output to lights. Now, over the years, the output to lights button has changed in how it's been, how or where it's been placed. So, for many of us, we started xLights, and there was the light bulb was over here. Then there was a point in time where there was a light bulb and a stop button. The stop button, I think, stopped the sequence and stopped outputting to lights. I can't remember now. It's changed over the years, but they've settled on the output to lights. You can being right over here in the play section, and that's where this icon now lives. So if you push the icon for the output to lights, now what xLights is going to do is it's going to say over here on your controller tab, it's going to say, hey, controllers, I'm going to send you the data that's in this sequence. So if you've rendered the sequence and you're connected to your show network, and you can click on your different controllers here, and you can see the green LED, little fake LED at the bottom there lights up. You can output to lights from xLights and test your props as you're doing your setup, or maybe you're testing adding a new model in and you're testing the submodels. You can output the lights by watching the sequence play, and you can do that in using the output the lights button. As a general warning, if you have xSchedule open or you have FPP open and FPP is open or xSchedule is open and it's outputting data, it's transmitting data from the scheduler for either of them, and you happen to have xLights open and you have this output to lights checked, you're going to see some flickering going on. And if you see flickering whenever you have multiple things outputting to lights, it's because xLights and xSchedule are both trying to put out data through the same IP address. So, or there's competing data that's being sent out, so you're flooding the network twice as much. So just a heads up with that. Next, we have the next toolbar icon, and this is where we kind of get into the usefulness of the screens that you see, the boxes or the functions that are meant for people who sequence. Let me go back to doing a new sequence here. We'll just do animation and done. There we go. I'll put a timing mark down. There we go. And the first icon here that we see, we have a big cog and a little cog. These two icons here are the effects settings icon. Now, if you're like me, you have more than one monitor that you use to either sequence with, or you're into productivity with your computer. I have a lot of monitors, right? And it's not important to have a lot of monitors, but if you have more monitors, what's nice is you can spread out everything, and you can have you don't have to have everything kind of scrunched onto the screen all at one place, just like you see right here, where everything's kind of, okay, well, I can see my model preview, I can see my house preview, I can see my layer blendings because I use this a lot for transition in and out. These are perspectives or views of how xLights displays on my monitor setup, and I have a number of different ways. I have an output. I've created a lot of these. There's a video on this, actually. We've done this before. But a lot of these icons up here activate some of these boxes that you see. And that's what we'll go through, and we'll click those and show you why they're nice and why they're helpful. So the first one is the effects setting box. So first you need to know what the effects settings box is. So the effects settings box, you click on any one of the effects, and that's the box that whenever you click on the effect and you click and drag and you carry it over, bam, it puts your effect, it gives you a way to grab the effect and put it out into the show. You can come over here and select your effect. That's a poor one to choose. We'll do ripple, that works. And you've got all of your effects settings. You can change it to, do whatever it is that you need to do, and you can, okay, now I've got it going where I want it to go. These are your effects settings. So what's nice about this is if you just need to see the effects settings real quick, you can activate it as long as your view, or in this example, I'm on I have this set up as laptop. I do whenever I'm in my show testing things, or whenever I'm doing demos like I am tonight, I put it in laptop view so you can see pretty much all of the main boxes that I'm going to be working with. That way it's easy for you to see them. How you set them up can be completely different. That's up to you. So with that being said, not sure why that kept the canvas mode. Oh, yeah, I do. Excuse me. So in any event, this is the effects settings icon. Now the rest of these are going to activate other icon boxes that you're already familiar with. So with this one here, it's the effects colors, or the color palette box. I call it the color palette. So the color palette was over here. Let me stop that. And I've popped it on. There it is. There's the effect the color palette. You can turn it on and you can turn it off. You can have it there, or you don't need it. If you don't need it, then you can quickly get rid of it by just clicking that button. So next you've got the layer settings box. Now the layer settings box is this other box here that you see off to the bottom left of my screen here. This is the layer settings is where you have the buffer tab and the roto zoom, and where you can change your render styles if you're using 3D props such as the cube or the sphere. I think you can change the camera angles and such. You can use the transformation, you can blur, you can edit the buffer, which is ridiculously powerful. But that icon opens it up and takes it away. So if you need to see more, so for example, if you're working with an effect that has a lot of stuff on it, like let's say the liquid effect, you need to be able to see everything here. Then it's helpful if you just click the icon. So sometimes the refresh rate, the refresh on the effects settings box, it doesn't show you this scroll bar. So sometimes you just have to grab the screen and it refreshes it. That's just a way with xLights. Sometimes it does that. But that's one way that if you need to see the whole thing and it doesn't have the scroll bar, you just come up here and you click get rid of my layer setting box, and bam, it's out of your way, and now you can see the whole thing. You can come over here and you can put your liquid effect down, and you can come down here and set your direction and do whatever it is that you've got to do to make it work the way that you feel like your sequence needs to work. So next we have, let's see, we have the layer blending box. So that's this box over here. The layer blending is whenever you can take and add different layers. So many of you have seen me go to my view here where I have the mega trees, and I have, let's do a spiral effect and another spiral effect, and then I come down here, flip it horizontal. We get those nice little diamonds. We can bulk edit this and make it look pretty. And we can give one of them a different color. Where's the color palette? Bring the color palette back. And we can say there's blue and white. So there's a layered effect, and what the layer blendings box does. Now we did a whole webinar on what the layers blending box does. This is how you can blend one effect over top of another effect. So you've got a lot of ways that you can take effects and recreate effects, and you really have to sit and learn a whole lot in order to understand everything in there. I'm not going to go through all that tonight, but that layer blending box, if you need that to go away, it certainly can go away, but just by clicking the icon box there for the layer blendings. This also subsequently has the layer blending here is where you would find your transitions in and out, and I utilize those as well in my sequencing. I hope you do too. Next, you have a model preview. So this is your model preview window whenever you put an effect onto a model or to a model group. So for example, the mini trees. Well, that wasn't very helpful. Let's put that on the mini trees. You'll see there's the model preview changes to either the group or the individual model that you're working on. So if we go ahead and change this to, let's say if we're working on the garage matrix, we put bars up there, and we have bars, black and white bars that are going up in 3D highlight. You can see that's the matrix panel there. You can make your changes and so forth. And so if you don't need to see your model preview, maybe you're only watching just the house preview and you just need to see it. Maybe if you're using a mouse with a scroll wheel like I do here, you can scroll in and you can just click and drag and hold the scroll wheel down. If it has a clicky wheel, you can click and drag with that center scroll wheel click, and you can get to the area of the show that you want to look at. And it's, again, this is kind of helpful to save you space on your screen so that it's not taking up all of that room whenever you're trying to do different things. So so there is the model preview. Again, you can just click on it, brings it back. This is the same thing with a house preview. You can make the house preview go away. You can bring the house preview back. That's especially helpful because some people like to sequence. So what they like to do is maybe your default setting is to put the house preview right here, and it's you can see your whole house preview, but you don't need to see that all the time. You only want to work on the model level, and you just need to see the individual model that you're working on. And maybe you want to watch it now, maybe you want to render all, and then you open up your house preview, and then you click on the play button for it. So that is one way to utilize these functions of these buttons. Now, you can close these boxes. They all have little X's on them. And so that's kind of nice. But remember, not every box has an icon. The next, probably, a lot of these icons are rather important, but I'd say one of the most important icons on this screen is your display elements, and then one of these other ones down here we'll get to in a second. The display elements icon is super helpful whenever you're trying to, and it's not coming up. I don't know where it's at. So here's a great chance to figure out what's going on. The display elements helps you put your different models into a specific order where you can have different views and so forth. If you click on it and it doesn't show up, it doesn't go anywhere, the first thing that you should do is go to View, Windows, Dock All, okay? And wait for something to happen. And if something happens, magically, like this happened right here, this docked, it didn't show up anywhere on any of my other screens. So now, whenever I click on that icon, now the display elements box shows up. And again, I spent a significant amount of time in a number of other videos why the display elements box is definitely helpful. But this is one box that that if you understand the layers and layer blending, and you understand all of the intricacies in xLights, which there are a lot of them, having different views is very useful for you to quickly go through and sequence. Maybe you don't want everything all on one screen. You have to have everything all on one screen in your master view, but having them individually set up where there's smaller blocks where you're, I'm only working on the mini tree or the mega tree, or I'm only just working on my stars, or I'm only working on the verticals and the columns. This is a way for you to create and add new ones. So that's what the display elements icon does, is that opens that up. Another one, and you're not going to see this on my screen because I never use it, but this is an effects dropper. So if we click on the effects dropper, you can see right here that it popped right up. And all the effects dropper is it's the exact same thing as these effects that go across the top of your screen here. So as I started using xLights and I memorized what all of the effects did. Now, I've been using xLights now, honestly, for going on over 10 or 11 years now, and the fact that I've spent a lot of time and I already know this. I decided I didn't need this effects box because the same thing was already up here. That's number one. Number two, I like to use shortcut keys. There are ways to use shortcut keys. I've done videos on how to create your own shortcut keys. I've shared my shortcut key file with everybody. It's on the website somewhere. Just search for hotkeys on PPD's website page, and you'll find that. You can download it and replace it with ours with yours, or yours with ours. But in any event, this is one way for you to see the effects and see it set up in a different way. So if you click on it, another thing too, you see how it wants to dock, where it's going to gray out the background. See, if I leave it like, let's say right here, come on, light up again. You see, well, right there. So you see it's highlighting right there. If I drop it there, it's going to magically make everything fit to that. Maybe it will give it a scroll bar or something. Maybe if you hovered over here, because you can dock these anywhere that you want them to. So my setup works for me. I'm left-handed. Your setup may be much more easier if you're right-handed, to put everything on the opposite side that I'm using. But this is what I've been using for years. So the effects box is it's there. And it's for people who need it, but I don't need it, so I don't typically use it. I use this icon toolbar up here for all of the effects to click and drag, because it does the exact same thing. So one is the other, and the other is the one. So they're both helpful. It all depends on what you need to do your sequencing. Now, this next one, if we click and drag, because it does the exact same thing. So one is the other, and the other is the one. Okay, so they're both helpful. It all depends on what you need to do your sequencing. Somebody unmuted? Next. Can we mute? Thank you. That threw me off a little bit. Wow, it's like I got to hear myself. Man, you must be annoyed, aren't you?
Now you know how we all feel.
Yes. So, moving right along, the last icon on this small section here is the effects assistant. The effects assistant is useful for 3 effects. The first effect, and I'll go through them real quick so that you know why it's there and what it's used for. Let's go to this view here, and let's go to the matrix, and we will put down the first thing that we'll put down is the picture effect, because that's what it was intended for to begin with, I believe, and then it got modified over the years. So the effects assist. A long time ago, there's a program called Piskel, and Gil was trying to recreate the same kind of program that Piskel had and put it into xLights. Now, I don't think that he got so far, and then he kind of, he got it to the point where you could use it to scale images, you could resize an image, you could save an image, and you could create new images. You could physically come in here and you could physically draw if you created a new image. So I'm not going to show you how to do that, but that's one of the reasons that you have the effects assist. So the second use for the effects assist is the morph effect, and I've already grabbed it there. I'll grab a couple interesting colors here, throw a color curve in there, a lot of blue, let's get some red in there. And so what's nice about the morph effect is you can have like a varied, interesting rainbow of colors that goes across it. You can do some really neat things just by changing the colors. But the most exciting thing about it is the effects assistant allows you to, I don't want to say draw, but it allows you to direct where you want the morph effect to go. So I use this a lot. There are 2 start points and there's 2 end points, and by changing the morph effect around, you can have different ribbons do different things. You can go crazy with layers. I love using this. This is probably my #1 go-to effect. I absolutely love the morph effect because I can do a million things, and it's really a great effect. So that is option #2, and the third option for using the effects assistant is the sketch effect. And if we go in and we use the sketch effect and we put it down and we open it up here to the effects assist, you can see that this is the default view for the sketch effect. You can come in here and you can clear it, and you can start drawing different things out, and just playing around here. But you can see how the effects assist, this is the effects assist, and oops, grabbed it and moved it, and you can play with it, and we did a whole webinar on this topic as well. So just a lot of little things that the effects assist window is good for. And notice how, like, whenever you are working off of one screen, like I'm working off the laptop view right now, if I'm only on a laptop where I can only share one monitor with you, sure, if I have a second monitor, I can put this over here off to my other monitor, but then you can't see it. So the nice thing is that I can just make it go away, and I can continue showing different things. But that's what's nice, is if you need to use it for whatever it is that you're doing, you can pop it out, and then whenever you're done, you can put it away. There's also another setting for the effects assist, you can have it automatically show up or turn on when you use those when you use the morph effect, or whenever you use the effects that utilize it. I don't find that as necessary, but there's a cutoff to that where it doesn't come up. The last 3 icons are pretty much very simple. There are shortcut keys. I don't use these very much for them, but you have a and I'm putting a bunch of timing marks here for a reason. You can use the plus sign here. This is the zoom in feature. So if you want to zoom in, wherever your mouse is clicked, that's where xLights is going to zoom in at. And then you have the zoom out button. So these two icons are rather helpful if you're trying to move somewhere quickly in a song. You can click in an area and then hit the plus button, or the plus magnifying glass, or the zoom in or the zoom out. You can zoom out rather quickly. If I go over here and I hit the zoom in, it's going to take me to the 0.18 second or 0.8 second mark, which is where I click because that's where I'm working. Another thing that you can do, maybe some of you don't know this, but wherever you click down here in the sequence grid, if I click right here, if I double click, it will actually click on there as if it's a single click up here. A double click will send it exactly to where I'm working at. So maybe I'm working in this area here and I want to zoom in, then I can hit the plus keys. Now, or the plus icon, the zoom in icon, or the minus zoom in, zoom out icon. Now, to be honest, I'm not right-handed, I'm left-handed. So I hold the mouse with my left hand. But if you look at a keyboard, there's up here in the top right there of the keyboard on the number pad is a minus key and a plus key. I have developed over the years, that's the shortcut for zooming in and out. So if you just hit the plus, minus, 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 that zooms in and out for you. So I don't use that very much, but it is there for you if you are right-handed and you don't want to take your hand off the mouse. You can take your mouse and you can go over here and do plus, minus, 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 and you zoom in and zoom out, and it's the exact same thing. So I said that one of the two most important icons that are on the screen were, one was the display elements, the other is your sequence settings. And then this is your settings for each individual sequence, not all sequences, but this sequence that you currently have open. And what you're able to do here is, and you kind of saw a screen that looks very similar to this when we hit create new sequence. And what this did initially at the beginning, what this did was it made it so that you could create a new sequence, pick your MP3, and then whenever you clicked on the other icons, you were able to fill in all of the data that maybe that you were trying to track, so forth. Like you have metadata, it pulls this usually off of the MP3, so it tells the author. You can put your email address in there, your website, the name of the song, the name of the artist, the album, the ULR where you can buy the MP3, comments to anybody who cares to open up the sequence settings to read them. You can add timings to here. You can import timings. And then you also have your info and media. So this tells what sequence area that you're this tells you where your file name, where you're saving or working from. This tells you the XML version, which is 2022.26. That's like the about xLights, which version you're in. I don't know what models number 0 means because, well, maybe it's because I don't have any effects on them, or I don't know. You have sequence type, animation. You can change this to media and then come down here, and if you change it to media, you can go search. We'll do that. You can go search for an MP3 that you want to quickly throw in there. And I don't know if this is stable because we don't really use it a lot, but the function's there. And there you go. So it just took what I had worked on before and automatically created. So the sequence settings is rather powerful. But I think more about what it's useful for is whenever it comes to sequence timing. So one of the things that we talk about when we're doing things with xLights, one of the things that we talk about is usually 20 frames per second, 40 frames per second. Now you can go, I believe, 100 frames per second, which is absolutely incredible. I'm not going to use 100 frames per second. I used 40 frames per second last year on my house, and I couldn't tell the difference. There are people out there that will put their hands up and say, absolutely, everything I do is in 40 frames per second because I can tell. I can't. So you can come in here and you can change your frame rate to a sequence just by clicking this checkbox here. And are you sure modifying the time interval will cause the sequence to be saved, closed, then reopened? Effects will be moved to the nearest interval. And you can obviously select yes, and instead of 50 frames, you can go 25 frames per second. You can go 20. You can go 10 frames per second. You can go 90. intervals, so it's 11 frames per second. You've got a lot of functionality there. The smaller the number, the closer your timings can be together. So if I'm used to using 20, we went to 40. Well, if we go to 50, if you go to 50 milliseconds, the smaller the number, the closer they are together. So if you go to 25, that's 40. You go to 10, it's 100 frames per second. So let's say you wanted to do, I don't know, for whatever reason you want to do 16 millisecond timing. You click OK, and now it's at 62 frames per second. And then now it'll give you a chance to save as the sequence is a different name, and then you can go ahead and do that. So that's the functionality. This card changes. I'm not going to utilize that. But in any way, that's the functionality that's built into xLights using the toolbars, the icons that are across the screen. Now, why would I take the time to go through all of this and show you this? Well, if there's anybody out there in chat, by all means, pop up in the comments in either YouTube or in Zoom here, and let me know if there's something here that I went over maybe that was new to you or you never even thought of or had no clue. Because as we go down the road with xLights this year, one of the things that we're going to start doing is we're going to start going through and breaking down some of these file menus. And there's a lot of functionality that's built into xLights that is really going to take a long time to understand it. And so one of the goals this year is to kind of break it down and show you why things are in xLights as best as I can from a sequence creator's point of view, or maybe Rob is going to do a couple of these where he can walk through and kind of do some different things with you. But there's a lot of functionalities. Last year, one of the things we went through last year was the preferences, file preferences. We went through every single one of these tabs, and there is a lot of information in that video, and so it's kind of helpful to understand what preferences are and how going through them and explaining them all. So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to get into this year, guys. I hope that you found this information helpful and useful, number one. Number two, we hope you like the content. I mean, there's a lot of things about xLights that we could regurgitate over and over again. I tend to find that I want to teach certain specific things when people ask good questions. So there might be a couple weeks where we veer off and we do something very specific because there was a great question and I can address it, or it's necessary to address it because there is no content on that, and I really would like to have more information on that. So, but this is where we're going for 2023. I hope. I hope you all got something out of tonight's lesson. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and open up, and we're going to go to our open question session here. But if you're in YouTube land, if you're on Facebook, thank you for joining us. We're going to probably cut it off right here. So a huge thank you for all watching. If you like the video, give us a big thumbs up. Share the video with everybody else, especially if you found it helpful. There are many things in xLights we're going to go through. If you let them know that we're doing these classes, or we do open mic nights every Tuesday, we do something in this Zoom room. So by all means, jump in the Zoom room every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll try to come up with something fun to talk about, or at very least have some sort of interesting class that we can walk you through and you can ask questions about. So guys on YouTube, huge thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you and take care. People on Facebook, huge thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. It's 2023. Are you ready for the rush that we're about to go through to get everything started for this absolutely insane year? Because we know it's coming. It's only 12 months away, or 10 months away, I guess. So, all right, guys, thank you on YouTube. Thank you on Facebook. We'll catch you soon. And as always, we'll catch you in the next video. Take care.